Welcome to Outside the Algorithm, where you'll find a universe of independent voices. I'm your host, Samuel Patrick, aka Drift Sonics, and today we're going to be celebrating the completion of Season 1. We introduced you to artists around the country, musicians, DJs, videographers, and designers. In this episode, we'll be sharing clips from those conversations and reflecting on the messages within. So without further ado, peace, y'all. Welcome to another episode of Outside the Algorithm. This is actually the season finale, Season 1 in the books. It's December. It's actually the last day of November, but I'm going to drop this tomorrow. So it's December for y'all. Going to do things a little differently here. Unscripted, behind the scenes, in the home office, studio, whatever. We got the whiteboard. We got the calendars. We're out here. So what I wanted to do was go through these previous episodes that made up this season and do a quick little response on, what the episode was like for me, the context behind it, and then some of the takeaways, as well as going through some clips from them that stood out to me. So if you're a new listener, a new viewer, welcome. Happy to have you here. This will give you a good idea of where to start if you don't want to start at the beginning. And what you might enjoy from that. If you're someone who's been around, thank you. I appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you making this possible. And shout out to our members as well. Y'all co-produced this whole season, which is very fire. You'll see your names at the end. If you want to learn more about that, LFOD.life. You can find everything you need there. But yeah, so this series started, these episodes actually, the interviews span couple years, really. I've always made an effort when doing interviews to not get too, I'll say topical, but to not do too much with, hey, I have an album coming out this day, or hey, I have a show on this date, because you never really know when they're going to drop, especially with what's happening now. And on top of that, you want it to be timeless and focus on more of a conversation that's going to apply to anybody tuning in from anywhere. And then you can always tap in with that artist and you go to their page and you see what they have coming out then. We do Outside the Algorithm live, which if you're tuning into this right when I drop it, that's going to be tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. And that's more where you'll get that type of stuff. Artists tap in. Some will have shows like the next day, the next week, whatever, and they talk about what's currently going on. But these are more meant to get a little further beneath the surface than that. So these interviews started getting compiled in 2020. I was on a road trip when all this started, and I was meeting artists around the country, and then put things on hold for a minute and started just building this stash of interviews. And then we did a whole rebrand. We had a different logo, a different name and everything when this started. And then the idea of Outside the Algorithm was, these are artists, these are people, these are ideas that do exist outside the algorithm. They're not getting fed to you, force-fed to you daily. They might not pop up in your timeline organically, but you can come here and step outside and see what's really going on with these folks and maybe experience and be exposed to some new artists, some new ideas, some things you haven't perceived before. And then you can get them into your algorithm, but it starts outside the algorithm. And so that was the concept here. Plus, it's like to be outside, it's definitely, I'm more of an outdoor person, I would say. So these conversations all occurred outside, and they started with Cake Swag. This was, we'll roll the clip first, but I really like this piece of advice that Cake Swag had for upcoming artists, creators, and folks in general. This is episode 1 of Outside the Algorithm.
Start now. I know a lot of you guys want to do a lot of different things and you feel like you got to wait till you have everything together. Like some of you all want to do photography and you want to wait till you can get a nice camera, or you want to wait till you have like a ton of equipment, and some of you all want to be poets. Some of you guys want to draw freestyles, because I did the hip hop transformation. I went on there and I was talking to the youth, and one of them asked me, they said, like, how do you know when you're ready to start doing something like a Talk That Talk Tuesday? And I just said to them, like, there is no being ready. Just do it. Keep going and do it anyway. Even when you feel like it's too hard or you feel like you don't have anything to say, just do it anyway. You know, like right past your writer's block. Put yourself out there even when you're nervous, when you're scared, you have butterflies in your stomach. I've been doing this for a really long time and I still get nervous, you know? So I would just say keep going, do it anyway, and start now. You don't have to have the nicest camera, even if all you have is your phone. You know, you can learn your tips and tricks and get better. But there is no, you don't have to wait.
That's the truth. And that's very much in line with how we do things, which looking back, it really shines through on that. This all started on the radio in Boston, LFOD radio. And basically I wanted to contribute to the scene there. I knew I could offer something, and I didn't quite know what at the time, what it would look like. But I just started doing stuff, started figuring things out. And the more I learned how to do, the more I did, and the more I saw, oh, this is what people are reacting to. Cool, we'll go this way, or we'll go that way. And it's just that's been the story of my creative journey. And it's also something I've observed along the way. I know so many talented people who do almost wait till it's perfect. And if you are a perfectionist or you're an artist that's really striving like that, it's never going to be perfect for you. So you're going to end up not getting out there, not putting things out. And at least with music, part of it is just jamming and being in the moment and making that music. And I know we record a lot of stuff now, but at its foundation, music is really a live experience, and it's something all humans do, and you participate, and it's really something that flows through you. And I feel like that's creativity in general. So just got to get out and do it. And, you know, once it's out there, you know, you'll see it and you'll see, okay, I could do that a little bit better or do that a little different. And then in line with what she's saying, when you get the better stuff with the bells and whistles, like, it's, oh man, it's such an upgrade. It's cake. You're like, really? Now I have this option? And this is a theme that you're going to see in a clip later. This is true as well. But I really appreciated that advice from Cake Swag. I thought it was directly on point. And she talks a lot in her interview about her Talk That Talk Tuesday series, where she was in the studio every Tuesday, you know, dropping a freestyle. And sometimes they were coming out, she was writing them on the way to the studio. Sometimes she had them in advance, but you know, by just doing it and doing it and doing it, that's how you build it up. Someone might not tune in till episode 300, and you're on point by the time you get to episode 300. You know what I mean? So shout out to Cake Swag. I really enjoyed that interview. She drops, you know, a lot of gems for the youth that are tuned in, and talks about her experience. And the Boston scene lost an important person, an important artist recently, Hefe Replay, and briefly spoke about how his show is what brought her audience to a new level. And that was the first time I saw her perform live as well. So just want to take a moment to acknowledge Hefe and, you know, the way he put on for folks and for the city. So rest in peace, my guy. Moving forward, you know, another Boston episode. These were filmed, you know, in Boston at an Airbnb, you know, peak COVID hours. This one is with Miss Hot Sauce, and she's the founder of Spark FM, which is an online radio station in Boston, serving the community there. Number one for Caribbean, as she would say, or as they say. And it's really a important format, and she did it off a Kickstarter, put it together, launched the station, and has been going strong ever since then. And I've always respected Hot Sauce's grind and commitment to seeing her vision through, from just a Kickstarter to having a full set of programming with DJs and events, commercials. It's the real deal over there. It's the real deal. And she built it, you know, from the ground up. There were a lot of folks involved, but we talked with Hot Sauce about this, and she also gave some really, it's funny, I'm actually wearing my Spark, shout out Hot Sauce, I got my it's number one for urban and Caribbean. So I wear this shirt a lot. But so she also has a podcast called Henny and Hot Wings, which I've been a guest on. And it's very, it's a sex podcast among other things, but it's unrated. That's for sure. And Hot Sauce gave some, good advice to future entrepreneurs, and talked her talk, broke down some history of Boston radio and her platform. But I wanted to go with a little spicier clip here. So this is Hot Sauce talking about one of the nastiest things that occurred on Henny and Hot Wings, and just gives you a little taste of the flavor they got over there. This is episode 2 of Outside the Algorithm.
What's the nastiest thing? This is to get people to tune in. It's a viral clip.
The nastiest thing that we've I don't even know how to describe it nasty, because there's just so many things. We were talking to what's her name? Never on Time. And she was talking one day, she was having intercourse with some Benoit balls. And they got stuck up inside her. So like the person had to blow on them and then they popped out. It gets that graphic. Like it gets that graphic when we're talking about pegging guys and, like them coming over and you literally get them in like position. And I'm like, this can't be,
That's
this can't be
wave,
good.
Right?
Yeah, it is. Like it's weird, but like there's so many people that love. We once had someone who does drag on, and he was just like, one time someone did shots off my scrotum, and I was like, okay, all right.
I don't even know how.
I
don't want it, but I could see how it would work.
Yeah.
There's a lot of skin.
Yeah, and it's foldy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. But those are like, we had a whole masturbation episode one time where it just got really graphic about everything. And, like it really is a therapeutic type of conversation, because you don't often see too many women just having open conversation about sexuality.
Oh, y'all are out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so shout out Miss Hot Sauce and the crew over there, Jill Badu and Miss Mofilla. It really is therapy, and I feel like that comes up a lot in the podcast scene. But a lot of these are therapeutic for folks, because there's a lot of things going on that aren't said in polite company and aren't spoken to or spoken about. And it's important to have a space to discuss that. You got to be, really comfortable and confident in yourself. And Hot Sauce is someone who does not shy from her truth and definitely expresses it to the fullest. Where she's at with things. So shout out them. Henny and Hot Wings. I don't know what episode number I am, but it'll say featuring Uncle Sam. As a former alias of mine. I think it's one of the top viewed episodes, but yeah, we got into it, and I just really appreciate what they do and the energy they bring. I've known Hot Sauce for years. Met her as a host originally at another Boston showcase, the Good Music series. So yeah, that's episode 2. We kind of had, we tried to tap in with a lot of entrepreneurs and like real deal DIY indie artists to get things rolling here. And we have even more in the clip that we got to drop coming up. So that was a real fun conversation for sure. This next one is occurred in Texas, in Houston, Texas to be exact. This is with Lore Gold. He's a fashion designer from Dorchester, Massachusetts, and he works a lot with leather these days. At that time, he was doing a ton with neoprene, and he's just got like really interesting designs and styles. And he's the only fashion artist we've spoken to so far. But I really enjoyed tapping with him because I've done some cut and sew things myself. I have an idea of how the apparel industry works. I've waded into that. I know some designers, but he's the first one we really spoke to on here. And he had a really cool approach to creativity that he shared here.
And even with music and stuff like that, like you have to constantly make new stuff to prove your genius or something like that, to prove your creative ability. And I have no problem with that. I have ideas for days. So my only issue initially was just like the timing, the production, and I've been able to get in the zone right now and just do all of that. So if I make one, like I'll make, my whole thing right now is to make a 3-piece suit every week. Whether it's a formal suit or I call it reformal, because I don't necessarily make formal stuff. I make like my take on formal, because my whole ethos of my brand is to challenge tradition. So I'll take a suit, I might just make it puffy or quilted, or I'll do like a vest that goes over your neck or something like that, or always try to add a different element to what's already been done, because I heard there's no sense of inventing the wheel, but you gotta reinvent the wheel. Well, you don't reinvent the wheel, but you just...
there's no sense in reinventing it, but
exactly.
you can add some spokes.
Exactly.
We're in Texas, man, slanging, like, you can do a lot with wheels down
rims
here.
out here are crazy. But yes, in that sense. So every week, like whether... like this jacket has a pants and a bag that went with it. So did this, like, but I'm mix matching right now. This has a jacket I'm working on. I'm gonna add some more pockets to this. There's another like harness bag that goes with this and stuff like that. So it's like every week I try to make a 3-piece set, whether it's a tracksuit, a suit, or a sweatsuit or something like that.
Okay.
I reinvent that every week, and I just have ideas for days. So
I really like how he calls his design style reformal. And I was watching this again today. And the cool thing about these interviews is some pieces, inspire me later on at different points. But I'm like, I want that like quilted suit. So when I hit the next red carpet I'm gonna have to tap in with him and get something quilted or like get one of those reformal suits, like for real. I'm on that wave. And I just really liked his approach to hitting the same thing weekly, but with a fresh look at it. And it was just inspiring to have that type of, just calmly stated, this is what I do. Every week I reinvent the suit. And so I definitely appreciated that. And we talked a lot about, his creativity and how things work in his side of fashion. And he spoke a lot about creators and, visionaries, and when your skill catches up to your vision, you unlock these superpowers. So it was cool to tap into him, and we've spoken since then. And, always a good convo. Shout out Laura Gold. You can grab some gear from him. I think he's really just doing like one-offs and made-to-order things right now. But tap in with him, LFOD.life. You should be able to find some of his apparel on there. So then this next one, we're in Atlanta with the homie DJ Candy, Rain. And this was a tough one to grab a clip from because Candy really was going in. There weren't like short clips we could grab. She was really getting beneath the surface on things. But we talked about the Carefree Black Girl podcast, who, fire enough, she put me on to them. She's a member of the podcast, and they've done events in Los Angeles that I've gone to. And the next two artists coming up, I actually met at their first event there, and I've met other artists at their events since then. So it's always, they're such a dope group. So definitely tap in with the Carefree Black Girl podcast. But on top of that, we talked about Candy's approach to, community and what that means to her. Because on top of being a DJ, she's also a personal fitness trainer. So we spoke a little bit about, your peer groups and how what you do affects them. And this was her approach to fitness right here.
And I would love to help out as many people within our age group as possible, because if I can help you create these healthy habits now, not I per se, but we can save a population, right? Because what you do is going to help your friends are going to pick up on it, then your children and things like that. So my job is to try to help my people within my age group, build as many healthy habits as possible and find a balance within working out and living, right? I will eat a pizza. We went to JR Crickets and got wings and fries and fried pickles and stuff.
Yep.
I still live my life, right? But I can do that because there's a balance, right? And I want people to know that that's okay, and it doesn't have to just be all 100% like, it's like, nah, like there's a balance and you can do that. So tap in with me, man. If you got questions, please.
So yeah, that's the Candy Rain way. And she will get you right. She posts a lot of like fitness challenges on Twitter. I know she'll be like, "Yo, do you do your push-ups yet today? 10 push-ups right now. Do this, do that. All right, tomorrow we're doing this." So shout out to Candy, and I always appreciate tapping in with her on hip hop too. She really knows what's going on. Has some flaming hot takes as well, and it's just always good people, always a good convo. So her and the Carefree Black Girl podcast for sure. We also dropped there's a lot of Candy Rain stuff going on. She's done mixes on LFOD radio. We've been tapped in for a minute now. But through her and Carefree Black Girl, we tapped in with a number of artists, including AJ the One, who we linked up with when I got to Los Angeles. Dropped a Extra Bars freestyle if you didn't see that. And we did this interview outside in the mobile studio as it was first coming together. If you aren't hip to that, basically, and you can go and watch the time lapse on our YouTube channel. But my buddy and I built like a mobile podcast studio, recording studio in the back of a transit van, and drove around tapping in with folks. And you'll see it in various states of development over the course of this series. It was kind of coming together as you go. Shout out to Cake Swag. There it is. I'd do an episode and be like, okay, it doesn't quite look how I want it. Like, what can we do here? How can we add this? What'll make that better? And so you'll see that. But this is AJ the One in Los Angeles, California.
I wasn't given the courage to talk about the things that I do and the skill and the talent for nothing. And so much of my influence is in the community and in the, other women's testimony, I'm from Inglewood, the things that I've seen, the things that I've witnessed. A lot of people don't have the courage or even the know-how to begin to talk about those things. So I can make a rap about it. I could do a TED talk about it. I can just find all these different ways to communicate this is an issue or this is what the woman experiences. And here's different ways for you to understand it. Listen to some music, watch a video. It's important for me to kind of embody that chosen identity that I feel so deeply in my soul.
So yeah, we talked a lot about womanhood, femininity, different approaches to that, what it means, her place in hip hop, her voice, from Inglewood to LA, how that influenced her, what it meant to be the one in her family. We talked about the yoni, we got into it. And we also did, a photo shoot and dropped that Extra Bars. So that was a good time with AJ. I've bumped into her at a few shows since then. Good performer. She just dropped a new record called Pressure. Called Nervous. And LA Ray is on that. Another artist who I discovered through AJ. And when I saw her do it live, I was like, damn, what is happening here? So it's just been real cool to come into this LA scene and see how these artists are approaching things and how they're going about it. And AJ was definitely one of the first artists I spoke to out here. I appreciate her taking the time to, link up and make it happen. Shout out Chrissy as well. So shout out AJ the One. Moving along, another artist I met at the Carefree Black Girl Cookout, Yoshi Vintage. I'm just going to let her get right into it, and then we'll talk after this. Welcome home.
Yeah,
That's great
I'm
news.
excited for
Yeah,
him.
15 years is a long time.
Yeah, a very long time, and you can tell that it took a lot of time off of him. And I just been telling him, like, slow down. You know, that time is gone. You can't get it back. You know what I mean? Focus on the future. That's all you can do. Don't focus on what you think you could have been doing in your 20s, but focus on where you're going now. You know what I'm saying? As a grown man, building and getting to what you wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? You found yourself now, so just keep that going. You know, so I try to keep that in his head so you won't get discouraged.
Oh, you are the big sister now.
That is a little kind of, yeah. Like, I actually find it dope that my older brothers feel like they can call me and chop it up, even though I'm young as hell. And half of the time, I be like, nigga, I don't know if I'm right or not. Like, I ain't experienced enough life to know if I'm even telling you the right thing to do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it's just fire to me that they feel like they can call me and I won't judge them. They can tell me anything, you know, and I'm always there trying to, like, push them to be the best they can be.
It's fire to me, too. I really strongly feel that, like, family can be such a huge power up if y'all are on the same team and you're working together and you're moving in unison, or at the very least if you don't have any unresolved like traumas or conflicts. Or it's an interesting thing. Family it goes one way or the other, but when it's on the same page. So I mean, that hit me right here. Shout out my sister, I love her as well, you know, and we have sometimes I think, you know, hey, damn, who's older here? So it was just fire. She was talking about her brother had just come home from like 15 years and, you know, what they were going through and some of the conversations they were having. And we did that one on Venice Beach. No, sorry, Dockweiler Beach in LA. So it was cool. One of the first times we pulled up to the beach and, you know, just chopped it up. And Yoshi and I were on like 1,000 from the second we connected. So it was dope. Our energy just like meshed well. And she's if you need a battery in your back, check that one out. She talks a lot about, she's not very big. She's like literally like a small person, and with a huge voice. And she talks a lot about how she's out there so people know. Doesn't matter who you are, what physically defines you, or this or that. You can speak your mind, speak your voice, and she's really an inspiring, you know, person and artist. And I rock with Yoshi. We bumped into each other a bunch of times since then. It's always love. Shout out Python P as well, Whole Pack Music, and that was a good one for sure. Keeping it pushing. You're gonna see a little bit of the newer van design, mobile studio design in this one. Another LA episode. This was in Inglewood, California, in the Forum parking lot to be exact. And this was with Ramon Tristan. I always laugh because I didn't know, and I'm out here and it's like I'm on the West Coast, you know, and so I see Ramon Tristan, so I'm like, Ramon, is it Ramon Tristan, like Ramon? And it's like, no, fam, there's no Spanish anywhere in my genetics. It's Ramon Tristan, and it's funny because I still want to add a little Cezanne to it. But shout out Ramon. I met him through Flip Jackson. A lot of these I would just reach out and like, who should I tap into? Because one thing we want to do here is, serve our audience, serve our fans. Who do you want us to talk to? It's all really off tags and ats on Instagram. And Flip Jackson had connected with him through a sneaker sale back in the day, found out he could rap, and passed that along to me. And so we talked a lot about sneaker culture, family, and his music. And Inglewood, of course. We got Brawley Hut after. It was just a solid day. But this is Ramon Tristan talking a bit about flipping sneakers.
I started hustling sneakers. I'm a big flipper. I was doing that to the highest degree, whether it be clothes, whether it be...
I can see how that can lead to trouble if you focus flipping in the wrong place.
Yeah, but honestly, I was doing it to a way where it was coming through. Like even when I didn't have a job at certain points, and that was my means for helping paying the rent. You know what I mean? So like I thank God for shoes at this point because that survived me. Like it kept me going. You know what I mean? So I remember one time in particular where I had this defining moment pack, and it was a pair of 11s and some 6s.
Okay.
And them shits is going for like, at the time, maybe $1,300.
Yeah.
And I was down $200.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying, on the rent. So I was like, well, I gotta do what I gotta do. You know what I'm saying? Quick 8. You know what I mean? I lowered the price a little bit, but it still helped me to, you know what I'm saying, put myself in the right position, man. Like, I had to hustle, bro. I had to hustle. I had to sell shoes and sell dope. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't want to go that route with it and kind of put things in jeopardy, but the clothes and the fashion, bro, and all that shit, like, literally saved my life, bro. Like, for real, for real.
So that was a fun interview. I call them conversations. It's not even really interviews. But we went back and forth about a lot of stuff and just really locked in. Ramon, you got to follow up with me because you told me you were going to find me some Adidas, actually. And I still haven't seen them, so we're going to need to talk about that. But we talked a lot about sneakers and fashion and, you know, following a creative path, which he has done, and, you know, fortunate to be paid off creativity, which is truly a gift and a blessing. And but it's also, I guess, in this series, I've always tried to stay in the background and kind of let people share their thoughts and opinions, because I've always had the opinion that people are tuned in to hear from that artist, not necessarily from me and what I think. That's different than how most podcasts are run. I know usually the hosts are the stars and of those, but I've tried to, you know, just make a comfortable space where people can share their thoughts. But it was about this time where I started adding more of what I think to the equation, or expressing different things. And there's a moment in that interview where, like, I made a face and he pressed me on it. He was like, well, what do you think? I was like, and then I got into it. We actually ended up talking for quite a bit about Ye, which I'll have to revisit that now and see where we went with it. I think I still believe everything I said. I know I do. But, you know, that topic has taken some turns in the meantime. I do think he's still... I'm still thankful to be alive in the same timeline and seeing what he's doing with his art. But moving on, this is another artist. Shout out Teddy Rockspin. Teddy was the first artist to point blank be like, do people ever just be like, what do you mean you want me to get in a van and do an interview? Like, it's kind of weird, bro. Like, he was the first one to be like, are people always into this right away? And maybe people have thought that in the back of their heads and not said anything, but he was the first one to approach it that way. But Teddy was cool. We met. I knew of him because around when I got to Boston, he was one of those names that was already buzzing, already making noise in that era, like the 12 for 12 era. And, you know, he was producing for Mac Miller, Future. He's got some really big placements that he got all off GarageBand. So he's been sort of a legend in the scene in the production sense. Boston scene's interesting because it can cycle, and you can have these names that once you leave there, people tend to like go right back to like who's around, and people can fall off. So maybe some newer Boston producers aren't hip to Teddy Rockspin, but he's got quite the history in the city. And so I just reached out to him when I got out west, and, you know, like, hey man, like, I know who you are. Do you want to talk? And we had a cool convo. And he was we've had this cool streak here where the producers we interview have just been dropping plug-in gems and workflow gems. And if you're a producer especially, I think you can get a lot out of these interviews. And, you know, here's us talking about how limitations can actually lead to more creative expressions. Jack White was the inspiration for that quote, but it's a fact. We broke it down here.
I like switching it up though.
Yeah.
Like the OP1, for instance.
Yeah.
I really like using that. I mean, I use it mostly as a tool in my production to feed into Logic.
Yeah.
But it is also really fun to make beats on And I mean, it is limiting, but it can also do so many different things. But it's like, it's limiting in the sense of like making a beat. You only have 4 tracks, and like there's certain things you can't do that you could do in a DAW. So like, I like switching it up and doing things like that too.
Well, that's what I like about the PO is, for me, the PO is almost kind of like a meditation when I use it, because you literally can't overthink it. It's hard to spend more than 40 minutes on a beat. It's like kind of nice. You just kind of, this is what I can do. And you do the coolest thing you can with that. And
well, that's like a huge thing, right? I mean, I feel like this conversation comes up a lot with other creatives, is like committing, like being able to commit to something. Because if you don't, then, you know, there's just so many options. And like sometimes you want those options, but it is good to commit, because then you start flowing. Like you're not, I've had times where I'm like spending 20 minutes on like a hi-hat delay. You know what I mean? And I'm like, what am I doing? This isn't making or breaking the beat. Who cares? And then it'll like slow the process, and it won't be as natural. And it's like, well, why am I getting so technical with something? Or like, I don't know. It's just good to commit, and then like that, it becomes the thing. Otherwise, you're not gonna make a decision.
Yeah, so that was a heavy gear talk. We talked about the different synths he has. He dropped some plugin gems. Shout out to XLN and the XO plugin. There's a clip on our TikTok and Reels as well. There's a clip everywhere of that. He broke it down for me in there, because I was like, man, I like didn't get too into beats because I hated this part of going through samples and looking for drum sounds, and because I'm a drummer first, so I just want to get on a kit, and if I don't like the sound of it, I can twist the nuts pause, like, you know, I can tune the drum head and make it sound how I want, at least within reason, or just hop on that kit and be like, this is the tenor and tone of the kit, so this is what the beat's gonna sound like. I'm gonna follow that tone. Whereas scrolling through snare 1, snare 2, snare 7, all these different things, I just never was super into that. It's different if you're making your own samples, but when you're just getting a sample pack. And he told me about this plugin, and we talked about it, and then the company sent it to me, and I've been playing with it, and I made a video using it, and it's been fire. So shout out to XLN. They sent me a few plugins. I've enjoyed most of them. I'm using most of them on my beats these days, and it's just real cool. So that was a cool convo with Teddy. We got deep into the creative spaces, and we talked about a lot. So shout out Teddy Rockspin. We were in a music video later that day for I guess like a hyper pop song. It's a genre now, and it was just a real fun day all around. So shout out Teddy, and shout out Zoo DeVille. This next one, he was one of the first people I linked up with in LA via the homie John Glass. And I DM'd Zoo, and he was like, yo, I'm free in like an hour. And I caught him on the way to a show, and we had this convo, and it just really reflects my point of view on music and how I feel often and, ideally all the time about it. So it's a good reminder.
It's all been just a blessing, really.
Fire.
For real.
That's the way to look at it too, man.
No, yeah, it's I what's the word? I appreciate more the connections I made with people more than the actual music. Just because it's like, I think it's bigger than music. It's like my best friends now I met through music. Like, you feel me? Like, everyone from high school that I was cool with, I don't see anymore, like they're back home, so it's like I have a new circle, and it's all through music, you feel me? And it's like now we like do shit outside of music together and stuff, so I very much appreciate like what it's brought outside of just like notoriety or whatever.
Yeah. No, I feel that 100%.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Even this, like, bro, I'm in a fucking van right now.
Yeah, this wouldn't happen.
It's like this, I've never been in a van that's set up like this in my life, so it's like, this is really dope,
Thank you.
Super fire.
And that's been cool too, because this was all, I'm a similar story where like nothing I've done
would have really been possible without music. Like, because I've done the road trip out the van, you know, meet someone at a show, and next thing I know, oh yeah, we have a couch, like stay here, like, and
So
it's like
fun.
you're kind of good all over the country, honestly, if you can make music.
Bro, because people, I could go to New York and have a place to crash type shit. Like, and if I didn't, I would
find one.
Bro, like my whole life I've always wanted to go to New York, my whole life, and music brought me out there, you know, and those are like, I've been outside the country for music type stuff, and it's like that would have never happened. You know, like I would have no excuse to be in a different country really, besides just Mexico where my family's from. Besides that, it's like I was in Colombia and the Dominican Republic. It's like I have no business over there. I don't know anybody. Like, you feel me? But it's like being brought with people that have things to do. Then I meet people over there, really cool people, and it's like now if I go, I know who to hit up and I have something to do out there.
Dope.
You know, and it's like all through music, all through like me just staying in my room in high school and making music.
Yeah, so yeah, it's just a beautiful reminder, and it was just a nice affirmation, confirmation to have, and a combo to have. And one thing that reminded me while I was watching it, and something with a lot of these that was cool, is even though these were recorded pretty far in advance at times, whenever I was going to drop them and going to edit them, I'd be like, damn, this is right on time for me. Even though the convo might have been 6 months before, a year before, when I was going to edit it, it was like right on time for that moment. And it happened with pretty much every single interview. Something that would be said in that interview would just apply to a situation that was in my life at that time, or a feeling I was having at that time, and it would be like a new level of clarity. That's the interesting thing too with doing these combos and editing all of them. And I wonder how some of these artists feel. So I always try to be really present when I'm with people and in the moment, and, you know, sincerely connected. So even though I've met hundreds of people making music, if we chopped it up, you know, that was authentic and genuine. I was there and I could picture it and remember the convo a lot of the way. But what happens on top of that is when I'm editing these after the fact, I'm reliving these convos like so many times. Like some of these I've heard, I don't even want to, just over and over again. And it's interesting because we might speak once and you might, you know, have some memory of how you felt about it or this or that, but you couldn't remember what we talked about. I promise you, I know like almost word for word what we spoke about, some of y'all. So it's an interesting flip on being on the other side of the microphone at times. And with that being said, it's been an awesome experience, an amazing journey. And this is episode 10 that I'm about to play. This is episode 11 really that we're filming now. But episode 10 was with It's by New, who's a producer from Boston originally, or from the Boston area originally, who's out in LA now. And I love this. I asked him, same deal. And it's awesome because I don't push producers to do this, but they've done it naturally. He dropped a ton of plugin game, multiple plugins he recommended. He talked about his whole hardware setup, software setup, and like gave us the tea on Afro. See, I'm doing this unscripted. This is where notes help. On Alte Cruz, which is a genre of Afro beats that he plays in, which is more like experimental, like using Afrobeat rhythms with different sounds. So he was working with a Latin artist, Infinite, at the time, and you know, got into some of that and how that comes along. So it was just a good interview all around. But then this is how he ended. I asked, like, we had this whole convo, and then I was like, what is your message? And I think this is a good closer for this part of the recap, and we'll get into why when we're finished. But this is It's by New from episode 10 of Outside the Algorithm. Was there anything you wanted to talk about that we didn't?
There's something that I always want to tell people out here in LA, man. Watch out for Boston. Watch out for Boston. We had a crazy year. Don't sleep on us. We got a lot of talent coming out. A lot of people say, like, oh, you guys just have Jonah Lucas and because it's this. No,
Not even.
We got beer. We got the Van Burens coming out here, man. Like the type of talent that I've been seeing the last year is crazy.
Yes.
We're making noise, and even producers out here from Boston and Massachusetts. You know, I'm gonna say Massachusetts because honestly,
I'll go as big as New England, man.
yo,
if you want to.
yeah, New England is making serious noise, and I feel like the industry is finally like, okay, eyebrows up now, like what's going on here? You know, they're paying attention. They want more, and we're gonna make more hits. You know, we're gonna make more hits. We're gonna shock the world. I feel like that's the one thing I want the rest of the country, even the rest of the world, to know, like, yo, don't sleep on the Northeast, man. You know, Boston, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Hampshire. You know, like Vermont. You know what I'm saying? Like, they got some people out there.
Vermont's got some dudes. I think 99 Neighbors are on Billboard right now.
Wow.
Like,
Okay.
I think I don't have a chart in front of me, but I know they've been doing a ton of noise. So
See?
yeah.
Yeah.
Keep going with that talk, man. You're giving me chills. I love it.
No, yeah.
And I think I'll add to that. I think people for a while were like trying to figure out what is Boston's sound, but I think the strength is there's so many different flavors. Like, because you just named a bunch of people that sound totally different than each other. Even in Van Buren, they all sound totally different than each other, which is their superpower. But like, Boston's got whatever you want, really.
Yeah, we do it all, man.
So yeah, 100%. My reaction in the moment is still my reaction now, and I love when people. I mean, it's only gotten more real, and I love that battery to get put in the back and talk about having a clip to share. You know, so shout out to Boston, and the reason I wanted to end with that is, you know, Boston hip hop is, you know, responsible for so much in my life, from, you know, the time I arrived there and, you know, was just someone, you know, making music in my hometown with my friends, maybe not even sure if I wanted to be serious about it, and then starting to go to open mics and starting to get into the community and starting to meet people. And because I'm from New Hampshire originally, and coming into it really, I guess, as an outsider, and you know, learning about, you know, the city and the culture and the art, you know, firsthand versus just from, you know, media or from the music. And it really helped me grow up, helped me grow into who I am. I don't know what or where I'd be doing, but I think, you know, that ethos of authenticity, and not to mention like being serious about your craft and real with it, really, and that DIY mentality, that hustle, it really taught me a lot, and it's been a thing where as I traveled, has held me down. The whole of New England, I'll say, for some of that. Because shout out, you know, Rap Night up in Maine. You didn't have to, but they had live ciphers, freestyle ciphers on stage before and after every show. And it's one thing freestyling in a cipher without a microphone. It's another thing doing it with a microphone and on stage with an audience. And like little stuff like that just existed in the scene will keep you sharp. So then if you were somewhere else on the road or something and there were technical difficulties, or you forgot a verse or whatever, you already have broken that ice and you were comfortable in different ways. And, you know, Boston really was that for me. And it really, you know, taught me how to have my voice and like really stand on what I said. And, you know, I've been having these conversations for years with artists, and they've been like incredibly beneficial to me. And I would hope for the listeners as well, the audience. The goal has always been to document what's going on, and that comes full circle to the outside the algorithm. because I was in Boston. I was looking around and I was like, why aren't people talking to you? Why aren't people talking? Because you're there and you're like, well, this person's doing, they're doing a weekly showcase where, shout out Motivate Monday, where, every Monday night, there's top tier acts on stage tearing it down. Like, why is no one talking about this? Why is no one talking about that? You're over here, you're a legend. You're not on the internet, but you walk in any room and people know who you are. So that was kind of my goal from the start with this thing. And so, yeah, it all comes full circle. So it's Boston hip hop till the end. And so watch out, So there's a lot on the way. Shout out all the artists, though, in every city, on every coast. It's not, I always tell artists, too, like, you're not competing with the artists in your city or even in, like, the city next door. Like, you're competing with these national artists for people's headphones. People are only going to listen to one song at a time. 90% of the time it is going to be Drake. It's like, that's what you're up against. You're up against multi-million-dollar budgets, marketing campaigns, algorithms, a lot of stuff. So I'm for everybody. I'm not to say that it's just Boston hip hop, but I love seeing those guys win, guys and girls, and everyone on that wave. But artists in general, everyone independent, everyone getting to it. I just say that to say, like, shout out to all the artists that are out there creating, sharing, expressing. It takes a lot of bravery to share your art with the world and accept everything that comes with that. And so I just want to shout out all the artists I've spoken to all over the years, all the artists I'm going to speak to in the future. I want to thank everyone on the LFOD fam for being a part of this journey from the beginning to now, and all our members for making this possible. If it's your first time tuning in, welcome. Hit us up. I'm around. I'm very reachable. It's at LFOD.life anywhere. You can find us. You can whatever you want to know, let me know. And I suggest you go through and check out those interviews. I'm really proud of this season. I don't know what season 2 has in store. I've got some ideas, but I'm proud of this one. And I really went into it honestly without a plan, and this is how it came out. And I'm very happy about it. And shout out to everyone who has given me a chance over the years. And I really appreciate your candid conversations. And much love to y'all. This year's over. We made it through. It's crazy. It flew by, but we're at the end. We got a new year ahead, and I hope there's nothing but abundance and blessings in your future. And look forward to meeting you along the way. Tap in. We do these live streams. You can pop in, introduce yourself. I'd love to meet you. All right. Peace.
Positivity is a better movement. Let us do this. Level up and get into this evolution. Revolutionary method music. Get us choosing everything but less excuses. Shout out to the kings and queens with everything to lose. They never lose it. So much glory.